We always hear about how bad it is when a country loses all its best and brightest.
This man had 400 teachers slated to resign from the tertiary level in Jamaica. So, who the duns already got duns now? I know them are going mad.
We hear about the brain drain and it's all doom and gloom. But what if I told you that this brain drain is actually linked to a $3 billion economic lifeline for Jamaica?
$3 billion.
Think back to the COVID-19 pandemic. Tourism, which is a huge part of Jamaica's economy, basically went poof, vanished overnight. And that's when these remittances, the money sent back home, that's when it became so critical. It didn't just keep coming up it actually went up, like way up to record levels. And that flow of money from outside became like the main thing keeping the island afloat during that whole crazy time. And where's a lot of that money coming from? You guessed it. Those skilled professionals everyone worries about leaving.
So wait, the folks some see as abandoning Jamaica are actually keeping the economy afloat during the toughest times.
And when the boat go up, I say boat, nah run good, and I say, oh, them run the boat, so.
It's like this weird paradox. When skilled Jamaicans move abroad, they don't just send money, they create all these opportunities, they become these crucial links for business. They're like cultural ambassadors, and they're driving this pipeline of knowledge and new ideas.
Legal, but we tell what. Yeah, man.
Now, it's super important to acknowledge that there are downsides to this whole thing, and we'll definitely get into those. But the more we look at this, the clearer it becomes that this isn't just a simple story about losing people, it's a much more complex and dynamic situation. And there's so much potential there that's just waiting to be tapped into.
Sounds like Jamaica's at a pretty crucial turning point. Let's rewind the clock a bit. Before we get to those opportunities, I'm curious about the history here. Jamaica wasn't always a country with a massive outflow of skilled workers, was it?
You've hit a crucial point. Imagine Kingston in the early 1960s. Freshly independent, bursting with optimism, and the city was buzzing. It was pulling in ambitious people, creative types from all over the Caribbean.
So what changed?
1970s, man. It was a perfect storm. You had these global oil shocks that sent inflation through the roof, political tensions, violence, all this uncertainty swirling around.
Can you give me a sense of what that emigration actually looked like?
Picture this. A nurse, incredibly skilled, dedicated to a profession, but she's forced to make this heartbreaking decision to leave. She's at the airport clutching a one-way ticket.
One-way ticket, just gone.
Family waving goodbye, faces full of sorrow, and maybe a sliver of hope.
And she wasn't alone.
Just between 1977 and 1980, something like 18,000 professionals made the incredibly tough choice to leave Jamaica. Think about that.
18,000 professionals in just 3 years.
Yeah.
That's a massive exodus.
To try and get the economy back on track, Jamaica started making some big changes. They cut back on government spending, started privatizing things, and a lot of people in the public sector lost their jobs. The idea was to stabilize the economy, but it ended up actually pushing more people to leave. Picture a bright young engineer, fresh out of school, and bam, there's a hiring freeze everywhere. Government, private sector, nothing. What's he supposed to do?
So the very solutions they came up with to fix the economy actually made the brain drain even worse.
Absolutely. As more professionals left, the quality of public services went down, which made Jamaica less appealing to the people who stayed, which in turn pushed even more people to leave. And at the same time, the Jamaicans who had already emigrated were building communities and networks abroad, making it easier and more tempting for others to follow.
Makes you wonder if things could have gone differently, you know?
That's the million-dollar question. As we look at Jamaica today, are there ways to break that cycle?
But before we even get to solutions, we've got to understand the full picture, the good, the bad, and everything in between. Beyond the remittances that we always hear about, are there other advantages to this global movement of Jamaican talent?
Imagine this giant web stretching right across the globe. At all these key points on this web, you've got roughly 3 million people of Jamaican descent living outside of Jamaica itself. That's more people than actually live on the island right now. And a lot of these folks are working in some of the most powerful economies in the world. It means Jamaica isn't just an island anymore, it's this global network with incredible potential just waiting to be unlocked.
So, a real-world example of this, imagine a mother in Kingston. She gets diagnosed with a complicated cancer, right?
Okay, that's scary.
In the past, her options might have been limited. But now, picture a Jamaican oncologist, let's call her Dr. Mackenzie, who trained and worked abroad. She comes back to Kingston for a while, and performs a surgery that gives this woman a second chance.
Exactly.
Are there other, maybe less obvious economic benefits?
Absolutely. Think of the diaspora as a giant economic shock absorber. Remittances often increase when the home country is struggling, providing a vital safety net. It's like an unofficial insurance policy where Jamaica isn't paying the premiums.
So instead of seeing the diaspora as a drain, you're saying it's more like an extension of Jamaica itself, right?
Exactly. What's so fascinating is how these personal connections and the passion of the diaspora can translate into real economic value. It's like Jamaica's roots are spreading out, digging into the richest economic and intellectual soil the world has to offer. But with every connection that's made outwards, there's also a potential vulnerability back home.
Yes. What are the real, tangible downsides Jamaica's facing because of this emigration of skilled professionals?
Imagine a scene in Kingston Public Hospital, overflowing with patients. You've got one overworked, exhausted nurse trying to care for, 18 patients at once. That's not some made-up scenario. That's the reality in some Jamaican hospitals. It puts an unbearable strain on the system. Those who stay behind are under immense pressure, and it has a direct and often devastating impact on people who need medical attention.
That's a pretty bleak and worrying picture of what other areas are being hit hard by these shortages.
The education sector is another one that's feeling the pain. It's not just about the quality of teaching, it's about the institutional knowledge, the mentorship that newer teachers need. When that disappears, it has long-term consequences for the entire education system. Can you think of any teachers from your own school days who might have left Jamaica? There's another layer to this, what you might call a governance deficit. Skilled professionals tend to be more informed and engaged citizens. They're often the ones pushing for good governance and accountability. When a large chunk of this group leaves the country, it can actually weaken the pressure on the government to be effective and transparent, and the quality of governance can decline. And that, in turn, can make more people want to leave.
That's a tough reality to grapple with. So instead of trying to plug the leaks, what if Jamaica focused on creating a system where talent can flow back and forth more freely?
You've just described the concept of brain circulation. It's about moving away from seeing brain drain as this one-way loss and embracing the idea that skilled professionals can move between Jamaica and other countries, contributing to both.
What would it take to make this brain circulation a reality? What needs to change?
We need to build what we could call institutional bridges. That means things like formal partnerships between Jamaican hospitals and international medical centers, university exchange programs that guarantee two-way participation, and corporate rotation programs that allow professionals to gain international experience without having to give up their careers in Jamaica. Second, we need specific programs to encourage people to come back, even if it's just temporary. These could include things like housing assistance, research funding, access to infrastructure, even help with childcare. These programs can lower the barriers to circulation. And third, we need to invest in ways for the diaspora to contribute to Jamaica's development remotely without actually having to move back.
These are all really concrete and actionable ideas. What can individual Jamaicans both at home and abroad do right now to contribute to this vision without waiting for these larger systemic changes to happen?
For skilled Jamaican professionals living overseas, one of the most impactful things they can do is to mentor young professionals in Jamaica. For professionals who are currently working in Jamaica, the key is to actively seek out global connections in their fields. They can join online communities, participate in collaborative projects, and attend international conferences, all while staying rooted in Jamaica and contributing locally. And for Jamaican business leaders, they can implement programs that make it easier for talented Jamaicans working abroad to come back and contribute, even if it's just for a short period of time.
It sounds like a truly collaborative effort.
It absolutely is. Jamaica's future success doesn't depend on stopping its talented people from leaving. It depends on building a strong and interconnected network where Jamaican talent flows freely across borders, while at the same time ensuring a consistent flow of knowledge and financial resources back to the island. But this future depends on the choices we make and the actions we take today. So for you listening, I want you to think about this. What specific action will you take first to be a part of this vision?